It's time for Magician Lord. Being a lord of anything is never a good responsibility. But when you're a magician, being a lord is going to be like a testament to become a man. Because on the Neo Geo, Magician Lord is going to be a hell of a ride. Now, this game was one of a kind. One would immediately think it's a Castlevania ripoff since that was a popular game at the time. But this game, it was really different because it had a lot of mazes and it had a lot of tricky elements to it, like that Castlevania and a lot of other platforming games didn't have. And you would literally think that this game was programmed by the Riddler.
This game's basically about a good wizard trying to prevent an evil wizard from waking up an evil guy who wants to take over their town. However, the evil wizard needs 8 books to resurrect him, and you're in charge of destroying 8 illusions of the final guy throughout the game in order to collect each of these books. Now, each stage isn't that long depending on how well you understand the floor plan of each one. If you want to explore, that's fine, so long as you can accept respawning enemies and continuous floors that go right forever. And I would encourage you to have a good knowledge of how to orient through the dungeons because you could very easily get lost and probably want to restart the whole damn game once you get lost. And speaking of that, that's one of the main reasons why this game is so fucking hard, because it's no save features or passwords or continuations. It's not anything for this fucking game. That basically means you have to beat the entire game in one sitting.
What kind of shit is that? Like, what if I had to prevent a home invasion, or I got called in for work, or I had to save a baby from a tree? It's like this game just has no compassion, and it's like a needy girlfriend trying to take over every aspect of my personal life. Is destroying this evil wizard guy even worth it?
Many reviewers I've noticed bickered about the functionality of maneuvering your character Elta throughout each part of the stage, but I haven't had any problems with moving him around. Sure, jumping is a little stiff, and it's that bullshit with flying backwards as if Elta were Muggsy Bogues trying to box out Shaquille O'Neal for a rebound in the NBA Finals, but it is tolerable to deal with. It's not as bad as the first Castlevania on NES though, like when you have to jump from one steep platform to another. You're even allowed to fire projectiles in a 360 direction, and that's very helpful when you're cornered in sticky situations. Plus, it's the only attack you can use in some parts later on in boss fights. But what sucks about it is, you're forced to do all this in a stationary position, and you can't fire and run at the same time. The unique angle about this game is allowing you to explore maps and then gain special items and abilities along the way. You'll have to be patient when trying to do this because if you aren't too good with jumping or timing how to escape, when you slip into a specific area, you can fuck around and get stuck, and it can even get as bad to where you have to restart the whole game in order to get out of there. The bonus is when you find health extensions, and you can even find other entities who will help you briefly, and you can actually morph into them. They'll help you briefly, and then you'll get hit twice, and then you'll get turned back to your regular self. But the moment you have them, they aren't invincible, but they're a lot better than this guy. The stage designs represent all of the elements you'd expect in a wizard's town. An enchanted forest, labyrinths, and ladders that never appear to end, and statues of Shiva overriding the chaos and destruction you're putting on all these zombified looking skeletons. Stage 2 is like being inside a little girl's dollhouse, and most of the time you spend descending down into this basement level, and then once you reached here, you meet this teleported winged gargoyle fucker, and then you have to fight this guy dashing back and forth across the fucking screen like a wild bull who just got castrated. But he's not really that hard to beat. Stage 3 looks like being in a deserted city on the planet Mars. It's not too long and it doesn't have too many confusing rooms. The bosses are this rocket-like dolphin, I guess, and this snake laser beaming worm. Not that big a deal, but you do need to watch the spikes when these damn platformers try to switch and sandwich you. This looks like a ruins of some sort of medieval civilization type stage, and it has a lot of dungeon crawling. You have these treasure chests with hiding enemies inside of them. Some of them barely have useful items, and it's like you have to be a fucking building contractor to understand the floor plan of this whole dungeon. It's like some ladders that go down and up forever. Some levels along each floor of this whole design can go left or right forever. And you'll be doing this the whole time while trying to destroy these things that look like clouds of meth smoke trying to force you to become a fucking addict.
It seems like games where you have that issue where you don't have an in-game map and you have to just rely on your natural instincts to orientate around dungeons and all these crazy labyrinths and all this stuff. It just seems like these games are just very confusing to figure out. And you just literally have to rely on your natural instincts to get around. If you don't have that, it's really no way you're going to figure out where to go. Huh? Where the hell did you come from? Oh, a challenge is what you seek for. Very well. The greatest challenge of all is in the next 3 stages. Uh-oh.
This is the most frustrating stage in the game because not only is it difficult navigating your way through this, but you have to deal with these damn frogs before they become fucking super frogs and kill you. And it's an endless amount of them, and it's like Bewitched cast a spell here or something. Like, you have to follow these ladders until you reach the 2nd floor. Then you go right some, and then you have to descend down. Then you go left, and then you go down, and then you go right a little bit, and then you reach the final boss to get out of here. And that was the only way I had to figure out of how to really navigate out of this, because this shit was so confusing. And these frogs will literally make sure that you never get out of this dungeon. You're going to be jumping a lot in this stage and falling and climbing a lot as well. So just take your time, because one false move can cause you to break a platform, and then you have to leave the room, return, and then start all over again. So be very careful when dealing with this stage. The worst jumping you have to do is in this one. I mean, literally in the whole game, I think this is the worst jump you have to do. It's hard enough trying to jump and then deal with the stiffness of these controls, but do they really need to add these floating hairballs from a bear's nuts just to get in your fucking way? I mean, fuck, like, this shit is just a nightmare.
Now you see the true side of frustration.
If you're lucky enough to get across those stones, you're going to have to go through an endurance round with fighting all of the previous stage bosses until you get to this end part where you get to choose one of the characters that you can morph into briefly, and then you can take on this Galagees guy and finally end all this bullshit for eternity. This guy is easy. I mean, all you really need to do is really destroy these rotating lantern green colored orbs or whatever. Like, whenever they come close to you in close contact, just destroy them. And at first it's annoying, but when it's multiple orbs rotating at once, it's hard as hell. But after taking each one out individually, it gradually starts to get easier until you start to realize, oh, this is easy as shit. And then you take them all out completely. And that ends the reign of the Galagees guy. And it also concludes my review of Magician Lord.
Yeah, but Magician Lord, I mean, that's it right there. That's pretty much Magician Lord. That was the end of it. And it's pretty much have punished gamers over the last 27 years. And, you know, it's because of the labyrinths and never-ending ladders and, you know, of course, forever-ending enemies that, you know, just keep coming and reappearing. And, you know, that's really the reason why everybody just criticizes this game to be so difficult. But I really like those kind of games. I have to really admit, this is one of the best side-scrolling adventure games I've ever played, especially from the early 90s. I mean, that's kind of hard to believe that something like this came out during the time when, you know, it was games like Sonic the Hedgehog and, you know, and Castlevania as, like, you know, the top, like, side-scrolling platforming games. You had all the abilities to do all the things that you could do in Magician, or, you know, games like Distance and Joker. It was really amazing. But, you know, it's not really for everybody. If you're not really into those kind of, you know, hard games where you got to go through platforms and dungeons and figure out where to go and knowing how to backtrack and, you know, and trail out every area that you left and, you know, had came in and stuff. If you're not really into those kind of games, then you may want to avoid this one. But if you really are just one of those hardcore, just masochist gamers that love that kind of stuff, like I am, then I say try Magician Lord. It's definitely a classic, and it's definitely something that's a little underrated. I think it's better than Joker, honestly. And it's definitely something you should try out on Neo Geo. And once again, that's another Neo Geo classic. Frustrated Game Reviewer. Catch you later.